Show me what you got.
How's it going, guys and geeks? Welcome to the Geek Critique Show. My name is Dakota, and today we've got a lot to cover as we discuss the entirety of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it's thus been released, and the rough order in which everything so far fits in chronologically. This is version 4.0 of this video, released the week of February 16th, 2018, and if everything works according to plan, I should have another version with updated information and releases right around the release of Ant-Man and the Wasp. So, if you haven't already, please subscribe to stay up to date with this list if you enjoy it and the MCU in general. We've adjusted some of the old items as new information has been discovered, and we've added at least 5 new items to this roster, including Black Panther and Infinity War. Today I'll be showing you the best way to watch each without breaking up the movies or seasons unnecessarily for an adequate and generalized chronological order.
Grenade!
Though not the first Marvel film to be released, the majority of Captain America: The First Avenger takes place before the events of any other film or TV show, with the exception of the odd flashback or two in certain films or series, which is one of the rules we'll use in mapping this chronology. If the majority takes place in the past, present, or future, that's where the whole will land on the list. The end of The First Avengers sees Steve Rogers in, relative to release, present-day New York City, which turns out to be Fury's big week, something we'll talk more about in a bit. Before we do that, let's go back to the 40s as Peggy Carter plants the seeds that will eventually become S.H.I.E.L.D. in Marvel's Agent Carter Season 1. But then, of course, watch Season 2. Next, you should watch the Marvel one-shot Agent Carter, a short film available on the Iron Man 3 home video release, which sees the birth of S.H.I.E.L.D. Though as of uploading this we don't have any footage of the Captain Marvel film, it has been announced that the film will occur primarily in the 90s and will feature a Skrull invasion, a shape-shifting alien race. Leaving the 90s behind, let's head over to the modern day with the release of the film that started it all, Iron Man. With the success of Iron Man, a more or less B-list hero in the pantheon of Marvel Comics characters, this film opened the doors to a number of different films and series, including the aforementioned Captain America and its Peggy Carter spin-offs, and thus starts Fury's big week, which is a number of films that take place roughly around the same one-week period. It's confusing, so instead of stopping and starting each individual film after every few scenes, let's find the best viewing timeline. Note, the events outlined in the various end credit scenes don't necessarily take place directly after each individual film, so we won't be considering those in placing these films side by side chronologically. The next film you'll wish to take up is Iron Man 2, which takes place concurrently with The Incredible Hulk and Thor, but the majority of the film occurs before the other two. The Incredible Hulk is often confused to take place before Iron Man 2, but the majority of the film takes place after Iron Man 2, according to the events outlined in Fury's big week. The Incredible Hulk is the only solo Hulk film that is considered part of the MCU canon. After The Incredible Hulk, you'll want to watch the Marvel one-shot A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Thor's Hammer, found on the Captain America: The First Avenger Blu-ray release. Next, you guessed it, is Thor, the titular debut of everyone's favorite Asgardian. Well, he's my favorite Asgardian anyway.
Oh my God.
We have another Marvel one-shot after Thor in The Consultant. Both Agent Phil Coulson and Jasper Sitwell make return appearances.
I'm bringing the party to you.
I don't see how that's a party.
And then, of course, we received The Avengers, the first major superhero crossover epic ever. It proved to the world that an ensemble cast that comprised multiple different franchises could work as a singular team, and was hugely influential in the way Hollywood has approached franchises as well as cinematic universes in the years since. In the wake of the Chitauri invasion, some alien tech gets in the hands of the wrong people, which is where the Item 47 one-shot takes place. This one-shot was what put the notion of an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show on the map. Iron Man 3 sees our hero dealing with some serious post-traumatic stress after the events of the Avengers. We also get a fake villain in the Mandarin, which upset a lot of fans who felt it was a bit of a cop-out.
Where? Where's the Mandarin? Where is it?
Whoa, he's here. He's here, but he's not here. He's here, but he's not here.
What do you mean?
It's complicated.
All Hail the King, however, makes some moves at fixing that issue. In the Marvel one-shot, we find the actor who portrayed the fake Mandarin is being interviewed to figure out if there really is a Ten Rings terrorist group.
Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division.
And what does that mean to you?
Means someone really wanted our initials to spell out S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. comes chronologically next on the list, and take note that it is the only show with logical breaks that other films and series can fit within its seasons without disrupting the narrative. The first season of Marvel's lineup of interconnected live-action shows should be watched up through episode 7. Thor: The Dark World sees the God of Thunder returning to protect Midgard, aka Earth, from the Dark Elves. Fun fact, this film was the worst received critically of all 18 Marvel films to date, according to Rotten Tomatoes' aggregate score. But man, is it funny. Time for a rewatch.
I've got this completely under control.
Is that why everything's on fire?
Get used to the back and forth with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from here on out. Episode 8 shares some tangential relations with Thor: The Dark World, but it's the events in Episode 16 that impact the rest of the MCU pretty heavily. Because, well, hail Hydra.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
The film that flipped the MCU on its head, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, finds itself next on our chronological timeline. The first solo Cap adventure that takes place in relative present day also happens to be one of the best political thrillers in years. The last batch of episodes, 17 through 22 from Season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., sees our agents dealing with the fallout of their organization. The majority of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 takes place 26 years after 1988, so this fits snugly with its 2014 release date, and is a solid break from a less than perfect first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
What are you doing?
I'm distracting you, you big turd blossom.
Next, you'll want to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2 up until the mid-season break after Episode 10. Thankfully, the show gets much better in Season 2. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 also takes place in 2014, just a mere 3 months after the first film, as opposed to its release in 2017. This makes sense, as the Ravagers haven't caught up with them as of this point, and Baby Groot is, well, he is still a baby.
I'm Groot.
While we're left in suspense as to what our favorite agents are up to, let's place the entirety of Daredevil Season 1, which ushers in the Netflix/Defenders series, into the mix. Because it takes place over the course of several months presumably, it does run concurrently to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, episodes 11 through 19, but there's no way to correctly identify which episodes fit where. Our Avengers team up again in Age of Ultron, with the inclusion of several new core team members: Vision, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver. Thor and Hulk leave Earth by the close of this film, and 2 years pass before we see them again. After Age of Ultron, we'll place the final 3 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2. WHIH Newsfront comes next on the chronological timeline, as it's an in-universe news program meant to drum up attention to the next forthcoming Marvel film. You can find these on YouTube, as it's a free web series. This is a 4-part series that takes place in July 2015.
Mr. Lang, how are you?
Well, I'm still in prison, so, bad.
Ant-Man follows closely after the events outlined in the WHIH Newsfront videos, as we see Scott Lang take up the mantle of the MCU's tiniest hero. Note that the opening scene of this film takes place in the 80s, but the majority of the film is set in present day.
Hi, I'm Scott.
Did you just say hi, I'm Scott?
What are you doing here? First off, I'm a big fan. Appreciate it. So who the hell are you? I'm Ant-Man.
Ant-Man.
What, you haven't heard of me? No, you wouldn't have heard of me
Next, we want to again visit Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in Season 3, but again, only up until the mid-season break after Episode 10. Jessica Jones Season 1 arrives next on our timeline as she follows some leads on Kilgrave's whereabouts. We are also introduced to Luke Cage in several episodes throughout her series before his debut series. Daredevil Season 2 fits nicely in between Jessica Jones and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., though it must be noted this runs concurrently to some episodes in the latter show's third season. But most of Daredevil Season 2 occurs before episode 11 through 19 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, so we'll place that here instead of unnecessarily breaking the seasons apart. That said, we do get this fun little Easter egg where they reference a gang war in Hell's Kitchen, which is a direct tie to Daredevil Season 2. Luke Cage comes a few months after Jessica Jones and perhaps a month after Daredevil Season 2, if not partially concurrently, so we'll place his first season right here. WHIH Newsfront appears again with 5 short clips from April to May of 2016 that help unveil the events about to take shape in Captain America: Civil War. Here our heroes find themselves at an impasse, divided between conflicting ideals of freedom and regulation. Though not quite an Avengers film exactly, it does feature more team members than any other film to date, including some new ones like Black Panther and Spider-Man.
Nice job, kid.
Thanks. Well, I could have stuck the landing a little better. It's just a new suit. Wait, it's nothing. Mr. Stark, it's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't really need to start a conversation.
Okay. Captain? Big fan?
Speaking of Black Panther, his film arrives shortly after the events of Civil War, as he deals with the fallout of the death of his father and king, T'Chaka, upon returning home to Wakanda. Next, you'll wish to finish off Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3 with the last 3 episodes. Let's jump into a 6-episode web series entitled Slingshot, which is a spin-off of Inhumans characters introduced in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as we begin to see the Sokovia Accords affect Inhumans characters. Spider-Man Homecoming is the first and only Spider-Man iteration to be included in the MCU canon to date. To put it lightly, the film disturbs the very fabric of the MCU timeline as we have come to understand it, with some very confusing in-film dates and timeframes which retcon previous understandings of established continuity. But logically, it takes place several months after Civil War and ends around Homecoming. Now, here's where many of you scoffed at our original video. Doctor Strange's timeline occurs partially before and partially after Civil War, but because his training and the majority of the film occur after May, ending around November 2016, we're sticking to our guns and placing it here. But wait, Dakota. Wasn't Stephen Strange mentioned as a threat to Hydra way back in 2014 during the Winter Soldier? Yes he was. But watch that scene again.
Zola's algorithm is a program for choosing Insight's targets.
What targets?
You, a TV anchor in Cairo, the Undersecretary of Defense, a high school valedictorian in Iowa City, Bruce Banner, Stephen Strange, anyone who's a threat to Hydra. Now, or in the future.
In the future? How could it know?
How could it not?
It mentions that Zola's algorithm marks individuals as threats even if they aren't necessarily threats now. People that have the potential to hinder Project Insight and Hydra. Over 219,571 individuals were targeted by the program, most of whom will never get superpowers. At the time, Stephen Strange was just a potential threat. This is confirmed by Kevin Feige, who heads Marvel Studios, and it is also explained in film. Note that before Stephen has that car crash, we see this trophy dated in 2016 in his office, and his watch very explicitly says that we're in February of 2016. It must also be explained that the 35-year-old Air Force colonel who broke his back due to experimental armor couldn't have been Rhodes from Civil War, because in canon he is 48 years of age, and Civil War hasn't happened yet. It's also not likely that this has anything to do with the Hammertech incident from way back in Iron Man 2, as chronologically that was in 2010, 6 years ago. He could have reached out to Stephen Strange years ago, but again, most of the film occurs after Civil War, with 3 to 4 months of rehab and therapy, and then what appears to be a couple months studying day and night under the Ancient One. Remember, he only actually knows about 3 tricks by the time the final battle happens. But let's not forget about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4. We'll place episodes 1 through 15 right here. That includes both the Ghost Rider arc and the Life Model Decoy arc. Iron Fist's first season sees Danny Rand attempt to poorly reclaim his family's enterprise from, well, some jerks he grew up with. It's not as bad as everyone seems to give it credit for, so definitely check it out. Episodes 16 through 22 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4 come chronologically next on the timeline. Inhumans Season 1 must occur after Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, as the Inhuman registration is mentioned, though it may not occur directly after. The Defenders' first season, the team-up of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, occurs 1 month after the events of Iron Fist.
What's the deal with that fist? I'm the immortal Iron Fist. You what?
And sees the four pick up most of the loose threads that need tying up after Daredevil Season 2 and Iron Fist Season 1. Hulu's first MCU show, Runaways, takes place around the beginning of the school year of 2017, which is corroborated by in-series dates mentioned, such as a Monday, the 11th of September. The Punisher, available on Netflix, potentially occurs several months after the Defenders' first season, and ends around Thanksgiving of 2017. Thor Ragnarok falls in step at the tail end of 2017, as Thor tells Banner that he's been away from Earth for 2 years, meaning it's been at least a year since Civil War took place. Though time works differently on Sakaar, the film does a great job of placing itself on the timeline. Doctor Strange also appears to be far more powerful than he was in his own film, denoting plenty of time has elapsed in between. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5 is easily the most difficult item to place chronologically on this list because the season takes place in a potentially parallel timeline in the distant future. We'll have to wait and see how and where our agents arrive back in their correct timeline to build a complete picture of its place in the MCU. For now, we'll place episodes 1 through 19 of Season 5 right here.
There was an idea.
And then, of course, the film we've known was coming for years, Infinity War, finally sees the Mad Titan Thanos make his way to Earth. We know this takes place in 2018, as Kevin Feige has stated 4 years have passed since Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. That rounds out our timeline as the most recent event in the MCU. No other future projects have been expressly stated as being here or there on the timeline, so there's no point in guessing, right? Next time, for version 5, we should be able to include Cloak and Dagger, Jessica Jones Season 2, the rest of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and maybe Luke Cage Season 2. If you have any issues with this iteration of the timeline or see that I've made a mistake, let me know. Version 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe Chronological Timeline now has some 400,000 views, which is massive for us. How many do you think we can get with version 4? Share this video around, guys. Let's try to beat the previous version. Subscribe if you like this video and want more geeky content, breakdowns, news, reactions, discussions, and even vlogs. Thanks, guys. Be sure to leave a like on your way out. Have a good one.